My father, aged 52, and I, at 25, reside in my mother's ancestral house, an inheritance I received when she passed away from cancer when I was 16. I share the space with my 3-year-old Cocker Spaniel, Moxie. Recently, my father surprised me by marrying his high school sweetheart, Steve, 51, whom he had been in contact with for almost 2 years. They swiftly moved into the house a week after their small wedding, a ceremony to which I was not invited, unaware of their relationship. Steph, along with her twin stepdaughters, Lizzie and Lexi, fake names, both 20, and their 2 chihuahuas, Gucci and Herms, relocated to our home. The twins attend a nearby state college, and my father proposed that they live with us to save on expenses, to which I reluctantly agreed, thinking the spacious 7-bedroom house could accommodate all of us. However, complications arose. Firstly, Steph demanded my room, citing the need for space for her luxury items. I firmly refused, asserting my long-standing claim to the room. A compromise was reached wherein my father offered his closet space to her. Secondly, the twins had a habit of entering rooms without knocking, causing me considerable embarrassment during a work meeting when Lexi, wearing a bikini, barged into my office. Furthermore, their untrained dogs left messes around the house, endangering Moxie, who was often harassed by them. I found her injured one day, prompting my concern for her safety. To aggravate matters, family photos, including those of my grandparents, great-grandparents, my mother's family, and myself, were repeatedly moved without my consent. In a recent incident, Steph replaced these pictures with her own, causing a heated argument between us. She insisted on setting house rules, claiming it was her domain, implying I lacked proper upbringing due to my mother's absence. I could not tolerate her disrespect in my own home. Furious, I confronted her, asserting my ownership of the house, and told her unequivocally that if she and her twins refused to respect my boundaries, they could pack their belongings and leave. I reminded her, "Lady, you are living under my roof," affirming my authority in the situation. This house is my inheritance from my mother, and at this moment, you, your twins, and your dogs are trespassing. Get out before I call the cops. When my father returned home early that day after Steph told him what transpired, I explained my perspective. It was mentioned that they were still adjusting to the house, and the move had been challenging for them. I shared all the issues I had been facing, but my father insisted that things would improve if we gave them time. I had endured their behavior and reached my limit. I firmly stated that enough was enough. He continued to defend them, so I made a decision. I told him he could either move out with them or stay. But he had until the end of the week to make his choice. Did I do the right thing by forcing my dad to choose between me and his new family? I had given them a chance, but disrespecting my mother's memory in the house where we both grew up was my breaking point. The top comments before reading the updates were overwhelmingly supportive of my decision. Definitely yes, good for you. Literally my first thought, nodding like yes. Good, they sound terrible. Girl, you did what you had to do, and I would 100% do the exact same thing. Your father, on the other hand, needs to grow some spine. It seems like she's got him wrapped around her fingers. I doubt it was even his idea to get married without inviting you. If he ends up choosing them, just cut them out, though no contact. You don't need that kind of toxicity in your life. Also, make sure he can't contest your inheritance regarding the house, just so they can stay there. You know, people these days. I hope it turns out in your favor. Don't put the secret wedding on the wife. Daddy Dearest dated for 2 years, hiding it so hard that OP had no clue whatsoever. Even if this was her idea, Daddy Dearest was totally in support of it. The amount of entitlement your father's wife and stepdaughters have is absurd. I am so glad you kicked them out. As far as your dad, his behavior is also pretty terrible. The whole thing of, "Whoops, I got married, didn't tell you, and oh, by the way, can my new family move in?" He is not showing any courtesy, respect, and honesty. I wouldn't be surprised if the wedding was the stepmom's idea, especially not inviting the daughter of the man you're marrying. Like, what is that? Just a quick update. I've read through all your comments, and I want to express my gratitude for your support. It means a lot to me. I realize it might seem like I'm a pushover, and maybe I am. I just prefer avoiding confrontation and arguments. I'm not the type to engage in fights with someone. I've taken your advice and decided to change the locks around the house. Unfortunately, the gate on the property is old and rusted, and it's been open for who knows how long. I can't do much about it at the moment. I've contacted the same lawyer who handled my mom's will to review if there are any loopholes or chances that my dad could contest it. I'll be meeting with her in a couple of hours. About my dad, he's a good man. He's worked hard to provide for me and my needs after my mom died. He's never asked me to tap into my money to help with living expenses, etc. He earns a decent amount as an engineer, around 6 figures. So I don't think he's after my money, but I could be wrong. I think he's just blindsided by the fact that someone still finds him attractive at his age. It didn't help that it was his high school sweetheart. I confronted him about his impromptu wedding and how he kept things from me. He said he didn't know how I would react if I knew he was dating his ex-girlfriend before he met and admired my mom. I was upset, but I eventually got over it since he seemed happy having her around. I don't know the full story between them or if there's any bad blood between her and my mom to make her act out and disrespect her. Steph and her daughters are staying somewhere in town now. Frankly, I don't care to find out where. They have the means to take care of themselves, and if they run out, they can always sell their luxury bags. They seem to have so many that they require a whole closet just to store them. For those wondering about my relatives, my mom was an only child, and my grandparents left everything to her. When my mom passed away, I inherited most of what she had, and she also left some to my dad. My grandparents on my dad's side live about 6 hours away with my uncles and cousins. So it's just me, my dad, and Moxie here. Speaking of Moxie, she's doing well. She seems happier and enjoys the quietness around the house. I'll update again as soon as I can, but once again, thank you all for your support. It sounds like I'm safe, and I appreciate your reassurance that kicking them out was the right thing to do. I've taken your suggestion to heart, and will be sure to keep anything sentimental or valuable to me locked up, just in case she comes back and tries to destroy some of my pictures, etc. This is indeed a great suggestion. In addition to changing the locks, I should document and keep records of everything with monetary and sentimental value. Keeping a video record, photographs, a ledger, or a spreadsheet of my belongings is a wise move to ensure their protection. As for the size of my property, it has indeed been in the family for generations. It's filled with a lot of history and sentimental value, making it all the more important to safeguard. You're right. There's nothing wrong with being kind. But sometimes you do have to toughen up and find your strength, which is precisely what I did. I plan to keep my valuables somewhere safe until I'm absolutely certain they are out of my life. If things turn sour, I may consider renting out rooms, but I'll make sure to have a proper lease agreement in place. You made a good point about evaluating my relationship with my dad. It is perplexing that he didn't tell me about his dating and marriage plans, but had no qualms about moving them into my house. It seems that he cares more about her than me, which is disappointing. I did have a conversation with my dad about his impromptu wedding and why he kept it from me. He claimed he was unsure how I'd react if I knew he was dating his ex-girlfriend before he met and married my mom. However, it does seem like he was more concerned about upsetting me over the dating part rather than moving a secret family into my home. In truth, my dad's actions reflect that he doesn't truly care about how difficult this situation has been for me. It's as if he values his wife and her daughter's feelings more than mine. I appreciate your perspective and insights. Now, here's the second update. I spoke with my mother's previous lawyer, Amy, a fake name, about the issue on Saturday and inquired if there was a way to contest the will. Amy showed me the documents, indicating that my dad and I had both signed an agreement stating that we were in accord with what was left to us and that we wouldn't contest it in the future. She also advised giving them a 30-day notice to find a new place and move out to avoid legal troubles related to the inheritance issue. So, the inheritance matter has been resolved. On Saturday night, I was supposed to have dinner with just my dad, but apparently, a private discussion between a father and daughter became a family affair with Steph and the twins present. To cut short the misery, I informed them that I had consulted Amy regarding the house and other legal matters, and that they had 30 days to find a new place and move out. Steph tried to object, but I shut her down, suggesting that we all go to family therapy and take some time to get to know each other. I rolled my eyes at the mere thought. I firmly stated that it had been months since they moved in, yet they hadn't made any effort to be a family unless they needed something. I had had enough, so I asked my dad if he was going with them or staying, indicating that his decision would determine which items he could take with him. He seemed confused, asking if I was kicking him out. I clarified that I wasn't, but wherever he decided to go, he would have to manage on his own. However, I made it clear that I wouldn't maintain contact if he chose to leave. Steph asked why I was evicting him from his own house, to which I replied that I inherited the house from my mother. There seemed to be a misunderstanding on their part, particularly with Lexi, who argued that it would be difficult to move since they were in the midst of finishing the spring semester and finals were just a few weeks away. I simply smiled and suggested they find a new place swiftly. After that, I left the conversation. On Easter Sunday, I invited my boyfriend, his family, and my two best friends over to celebrate. My dad had been calling me, and my brother had been answering his calls, inviting me to spend the day with them. However, as far as I'm concerned, the only family I recognize now are my two best friends, my boyfriend, and his family. It was a wonderful Sunday, filled with egg hunting, games, and a grand dinner, something I hadn't experienced in a long time. Everything felt just right. Currently, I'm in the process of meticulously documenting every item in the house worth over $500. I had some people over to assist with this task. All the locks have been changed, and I've only given a copy to my boyfriend. No need to worry about my dad asking him for a key since my dad doesn't approve of him, given his middle-class background. I've also taken steps to enhance security by hiring professionals to install a security system around the house and property. Additionally, I have a meeting scheduled with someone to discuss the fences and gates. I haven't tapped into the funds my mom left behind, as I've been using them for college tuition, dorm expenses, and other needs. However, given the urgency of the situation, I believe it's time to access those funds. All the family pictures and portraits are currently in storage, and other smaller valuables are stored in a safety deposit box. Important documents are kept in a water and fireproof safe that requires both a key and a pin to open, and it's situated in my room. I'm taking every precaution and advice that you've provided in the comments on my previous post. Thank you for your valuable suggestions. So, for now, that's the update. I'm not entirely sure why my dad is choosing to be with them rather than me, his own flesh and blood. I've come to accept that, for some unknown or unexplainable reason, they are more important to him. It's challenging, as he's the only family I have left here, and I'm not particularly close to his side of the family. However, once they move out, I plan to cut contact with him. He's a grown man and can decide what he wants to do with his life. I appreciate all the support and well wishes. Thank you for your encouragement. You're doing a great job, and it's essential not to let your dad manipulate you or lie to get his way. He made his choice, and you shouldn't allow him to weasel his way back into your life. Don't be surprised if some emergency or crisis comes up in the future, as that's a common tactic some families use to regain access. Stay strong and true to your decisions. I cut ties with them 3 years ago. In the past month alone, there have been relentless attempts to drag me back into their chaos. First, there was the pressure to get tested for some unspecified issue when my grandpa needed blood due to a rare problem. Then my grandma had a minor stroke with no lasting damage, but it was blown out of proportion. My sister wanted a divorce, and my parents were unhelpful, leaving me to handle the emotional fallout alone. Now my mom is bombarding me with frantic voicemails about my sister needing support, all while my grandpa battles pneumonia or congestive heart failure. He's 19, his health is deteriorating, and I feel helpless. They paint me as a heartless monster for not caring, but every manufactured crisis has made me numb. They create emergencies, ensuring things can never get better, providing an excuse to stay in my life. I'm doing my best to document everything. You're absolutely right. These people will invent insane reasons to crawl back into my life. Mom might manipulate Dad's decisions by withholding intimacy, forcing him to choose her over me. It's sad how some people prioritize their desires over their children's well-being. I agree. It's time for me to focus my energy on my boyfriend and his family. My dad's blindness to my feelings before making major decisions is disappointing. While I'm an adult, if he's my only family, one would think he'd make wiser choices. I've seen worse situations on various platforms, like husbands leaving their wives for mistresses, so I should be able to handle this. I just hope my boyfriend isn't taking advantage of me. I should consider a prenuptial agreement to safeguard my interests. It's become apparent that she assumed my dad's house was her own, which is why she asked me to give up my room for her convenience. She underestimated my resolve, but it was a crafty move. Kudos to her. But this situation feels like a twisted version of Cinderella, where everything goes right for her, but not for the wicked stepmother and stepsisters. Boycotting contact after my dad moves his new family out seems necessary. He married her without considering my feelings, and he should have provided them with their own place from the start. Perhaps that could have salvaged our relationship. If he genuinely wanted to be a father to me, he should have stood up for me and his late wife against his new family's disrespectful behavior. Instead, he's shifting the burden onto me, and that's not how a parent should act.